The CEO of T-Tech Limited. His name is Christopher Reckord. Chris has more than 29 years of experience, almost 30 years experience within the information and communications technology ICT industry. Before joining T-Tech, he was founder and executive director of Innovate Corporate Solutions in Jamaica, and he also held a number of management positions at Adjoined Consulting in Miami, Florida. He serves as chairman of eLearning Jamaica. He's also director of the Jamaica Computer Society and a member of the PSOJ. He's also currently the chairman of the PSOJ's membership committee. So Chris has a very long resume. He knows what he's talking about. He knows a thing or two about IT. Now let's learn from him about right-sizing your IT support to accelerate your digital maturity. Welcome, Christopher Reckord.
Thank you very, very, very much, Kalila. Thank you. Quick correction, I was the former chairman of eLearning Jamaica Limited, no longer. Current chairman is now Mr. Mitri Siaga. All right, folks, so my team asked me to speak on this topic, right-sizing your IT support to accelerate your digital maturity. And when I considered the topic, I also realized that we have been having discussions with a number of customers about projects that they're embarking on, digital transformation projects to upgrade systems. And so I realized that this is the same type of conversation. Folks want to know, who do I need to have in place? What things do I need to have in place to ensure that this transformation works well? So what I did, instead of just saying right-sizing your IT digital transformation, I bolted on top of it outsource IT versus internal IT. What is the right type of support that is needed, or that we would suggest to you? So I have put together a few slides here to attempt to answer the question, because these questions I've been having with business folks and technical folks over the last month or two. We've been having some good reasonings around the thoughts as to how organizations like a T-Tech, like other of our colleague organizations in industry, how do we help you internally in your organizations to do? So the questions here, this thing called transformation, is it new? What are we're talking about it, right? Business or technology objective. Why isn't some technology projects, why aren't some digital transformation projects working? Are we actually measuring the maturity of the digital maturity within the organization, or is it the IT support maturity? And of course, we come to the main question: do we outsource or insource for some of this support, right? And of course, I take a peep in the future. It was great to have the insights that that Brian shared earlier. I stole one of his slides and I stuck it as one of my backup slides as I look to consider a peep into the future, looking at the trends, and maybe it's something that a number of our customers are also asking us help with. So let me just start with a little bit of history. And what was interesting is I recently attended a conference put on by PricewaterhouseCoopers International, and one of the presenters referred to this book, a new book that came out by two of their internal PwC consultants. And on page 1, in chapter 1, I read this and I was like, wow, maybe tongue in cheek, but these guys said the digital age began 75 years ago. And of course, when I read more into it, I said, okay, it was talking about the introduction of the transistor, right? But of course, other telling signs around this whole digital age that we're in is that the internet is more than 50 years old, right? IBM PC, how I got involved in technology, I used to be a salesperson for a company that sold IBM PCs and compatibles. That was introduced 40 years ago, right? And even companies that we think are like pioneers in this digital age, Apple is 45 years old. And as the the notes say, Google is actually coming up on 25 years, maybe 25 years by now. Seeing that the first internet browser was also over 25 years. So this whole thought of digital is not new at all. And as the writers Paul and Matt suggest to us, maybe it's time to move beyond digital, right? And for us in our industry and our region, we do have varying degrees of maturity as to who's a baby just starting versus who's very advanced, some of the financial institutions. But all I want to do with some of these slides here is just answer some of the questions that have been asked over the past few months. So this term digital transformation, only 11 years ago, it was attributed to Capgemini and MIT Center for Digital Business. They coined the term in 2011. And their very simplistic definition, there have been a lot more pontifications around this term, is digital transformation includes the use of technology to radically improve performance or the reach of businesses. Very simplistic. We've heard a lot more complicated and very deep definitions. But at the end of the day, I think we have an idea of what we mean. Now, if this was just coined in 2011, what were we talking about before? So one of the things that a lot of us in the IT industry was talking about before, and some of our bosses and partners and team members, extracting value from IT. That was what was written in a lot of the books. That was written in a lot of the presentations that we attended. We have to extract more from IT. All these projects are happening, but we're not seeing the value. One of the reasons why we might not have been seeing the value is that a fair amount of investment was just made for IT to just make things faster. And back then technology meant just speed. It meant using computers to do things faster. And whether it's GL, whether it's your regular accounts, get out the accounts quicker, typing faster. In the way back when, that was a fair amount of the reasons for making investments in technology. Now, fast forward to today, we have gobs and zettabytes of data at our fingertips. And this transformation now really and truly is, how do we use this data? The technology really and truly hasn't changed that much. It has gotten faster. It has gotten lighter. It has gotten, yes, in a lot of aspects, cheaper, a computer. But at the end of the day, what really and truly, where there are massive opportunities for a lot of us are, in fact, with the data that we have. Now, as I mentioned, the whole question around, is it a business objective versus a technology objective? And I would argue that the term digitization came about as people were implementing new digital technologies in an organization. Some of us in the industry and many consultants argue that it wasn't a lot of transformation taking place. We were just digitizing things that were done manually. We were replacing, let's say, let's use a use case of an HR system. We were allowing people to email their resumes. We were allowing people to go online and make bookings for a meeting, to have an interview. What was that real transformation, right? To many of us, we're like, that's not real transformation. So the digital transformation is how the organization leverage and maximize the value of the technology that was implemented. So tech is implemented, it's there, people are using it, you have to train them, but was it transforming, how the team interacted with the company? Was it how the customers interact with the company? Was it touching any of the processes in the organization? So this is some of the discussions that I've been having. And so one of the things I try to get people to start thinking about is, okay, how do we actually just move from this place of installing, investing, touching on some technology to actually making you a more advanced organization? So the same institution that came up with, or was accredited with coming up with the term digital transformation, again, Capgemini in association with MIT Digital Business, they also created some form of framework, right? I hope this is big enough. I'm not sure how it comes across in your screen, but in other screens, I will pull out and highlight the key areas of it. So the framework that they created touched on three main pillars. And these three main pillars are customer experience, operational process, and the business model. And so what's been happening is that there's been a plethora of projects in and across all of these various areas that people, ascribe to digital transformation. And yes, some of them are actually making some transformation, some of them are not. So in terms of looking at these components of the roadmap, one of the things that me and a colleague did recently over the last year, we looked into these researches. We looked at our experience with us helping customers over the past 20 plus years of implementing technology and doing projects. And we kind of boiled it down to, let's say it's, four main areas, going back to that people, process, technology triad. And of course, we added planning. So over the last year and a half, myself and Trevor Forrest, he'll be speaking tomorrow morning. We're writing a series of articles in the Jamaica Observer. And we looked at the Capgemini research and pulled out and boiled it down into these areas around, planning, which is, the digital strategy, the specific digital focus and investments required in the company. The people, of course, the digital skills, how advanced can these people actually use the technology that we're implementing in the organization, the leadership, culture, massive important. We'll talk about that again shortly. Governance, digital innovation, the change management, that's the whole process of getting all of this working. And of course, yes, the technology is important, right? So it is something that that has to be spoken about. But in my discussions with the various leaders that I've spoken to recently, I said, look, digital transformation needs to ensure that there are four things at least, right? A lot more can be touched on, but at least four things that we need to ensure that we're actually touching once this process is done. What is new? What will be new when this project finishes around employee engagement? Will it change it in a massive way? What will be new around your customer experience? What's new in terms of your operations, how your company produces the product or produces the service? And then also very, very important, what will be new around how your organization delivers its product and delivers services, right? So digital transformation and the maturity and the scale of this maturity ladder has to ensure that something major changes. And it's just not just a little change, not that it's convenient to do stuff, but there must be new insights, there must be new capabilities with the organization. Your customers have to have new experiences, right? So this is some of the general advice that that I've been having the discussions with these various stakeholders. Now, in acknowledging and realizing and recognizing that some of these things must change. This is now where we're now starting to check on this whole maturity. And whose maturity are we checking on, right? Are we checking on the maturity of the organization in general? Are we checking on the maturity of our internal IT support? Or just checking on the maturity of whatever projects that we have done so far? So over the last several years, we've partnered with Infotech Research. Brian from Infotech was presented earlier. We've partnered with them to use a number of their tools to help our customers come up with projects, come up with, whether it's IT security, strategy documents. And so one of the things that we use from Infotech Research Group is their maturity model, right? And this maturity model has been used with a number of Jamaican organizations. So to the question earlier around I think Sonica had asked a question around, do we have folks from Jamaica that answer these surveys? Yes, we do. Because once any of us use any of the tools from Infotech to pull in data for any of the projects that we're working on, that data sometimes can contribute to their bigger research. So we use some of the tools here to analyze our customers' IT maturity model as we go in to help make any sort of change around. And what Brian showed in one of the slides that he had earlier was a very telling statistic. So when you look at this maturity model, at the lower end, let's look at the right hand side. It talks about what percentage what percentage of users in the organization or IT leadership or whoever is taking the survey consider their IT support as unstable. Next level up is firefighter, and of course it goes up. Ideally, we want people to be in the business partner stage, expanding the business process. Most importantly, very few are there, but of course, who's there to help transform the business, not just enable the business. So the statistic that Brian showed earlier, very, very important, interesting, that the survey showed that 48% of the survey respondents show that their IT support folks were in the bottom two quadrants at 48%. That's low. Um, it's when I said low, meaning that we really and truly need more folks to be up in the higher quadrant. So that's a relatively high number. That level is so low, but we really and truly need people to move up the maturity scale. That's why I mentioned, too many of our organizations are on the low part of the scale, and so we really need some movement there. So with this, another case, can't mention the company's name, but organization came to us, had a discussion around how do we implement our digital aspirations whilst our IT team is at that level, because we did this work. And this is when we were asked to come in to help, and we've been working at the organization for a number of years now, where we say, well, okay, look, we will support your internal team. Your internal team understands your business processes more than anybody else. So let's not having them be focused on the managing routers and switches and all of this kind of stuff. We will kind of take over that from them, right? So it's a partnership between us and the internal team, freeing them up now to help you with your advanced digital strategies, because they know the team inside, they know the culture of the organization, people internally trust them. So that's kind of what we've been doing around helping organizations to get to this digital maturity. So speaking of digital maturity, this now is another product of the Infotech Research Group looking at your digital maturity. Where is it? And as I mentioned before, they kind of touch on some of the things that the MIT original framework had educated us about, which is, look, what's the organization strategy around digital? What are the company's capabilities? Do you have the team? Do they understand? Do you have the right people in place? And then does this culture allow for any sort of this type of innovation? There's a slide I have coming up that asks a question. Matter of fact, it's the next slide that asks, why do business struggle? Why have so many digital transformation projects not done what it's supposed to do? And it's directly connected to that digital maturity model. Sadly, some companies think that this is all about technology. Some of the organizations, the team members don't get it, they don't want it, they don't have the capacity to do the new work using the new systems that have been put in. The culture doesn't support innovation and agility, sadly. And this is now where in a partnership, sadly, too many people believe that they can go it alone. They have the internal team that's working on it. And some of these folks, the IT is what they know, so everything will be IT, right? So the last area, because I thought that my research and information and discussion with a lot of folks said, look, there are five real areas. The next area that causes a business to struggle with digital maturity and their digital potential is this thing called change, right? We all have seen this meme around in various versions. Who wants to change? Everybody puts up their hand. Who wants to change? Nobody put up their hand, right? But everybody wants change. There's a modified version of this meme that I just saw recently that speaks to who wants to lead the change. Then everybody disappears from the screen, right? So this is these are some of the things that are kind of hampering the digital maturity from moving up the scale. And this is now answering that question that I was asked initially. Well, what is the right IT structure to do it, right? And this is now where we make a proposal that is it internal IT versus external IT, right? Now, there are great benefits with internal IT personnel, right? They are they're there, they're right there, so they're available. Something wrong, you call the person, they come below your desk and they jiggle some cables and all of that. But remember, the organization is now trying to do some massive transformation. It's trying to go digital. Spoke to an executive this morning, and he said to me, Chris, by the end of the year, I'm going to be able to interact with every one of my customers from their cell phone, and they'll be able to purchase all my services from me. That is massive, massive, massive change. We need the team members in the organization who understand the business and are technical to help with that change, not be working on mundane tasks of help desk and of some of these low level. So the benefit of internal IT, yes, there's control and priority and focus and knowledge of an environment. And of course, they understand the unique IT requirements of the organization. But the risk are this growth area. We would like to grow, right? And in sticking only with an internal IT, sometimes the innovation doesn't happen, right? Yes, of course, there's a risk of turnover and of course absence from work and all of that. So the other component where a lot of people use is bringing in an IT consultant. Benefits there, yes, it's they have a high level of expertise. They know exactly the one or two things that they need to get done, and it is usually cost effective because it's usually for a period of time. But it can also be very expensive because some consultants come in and they plant down their tentacles and have no intention of leaving for the next X amount of years based upon their plan. And there's usually no real focus and incentive to deliver on the customer's objectives, simply because they are there for, yes, they came to help that one problem, but they would like to also, as us consultants do. I was in the consulting space for a while. You go in there and you identify a lot of challenges to fix, and you just stay there and never move. So sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but that's the other option. The other option is to IT outsource to somebody like a managed service provider, like a T-Tech, right? Again, it can be a cost benefit, but it also can be a little bit expensive because not a lot of people understand what IT support really costs. They've been used to using, well, I've been using this one person here. It's been easy for me. I can call that person whenever. Your thing now, we're coming in and we're doing 24/7 monitoring. We're doing all of this stuff. But we need to understand how technology works. And it's easy for me to just say it if it's easy to understand, because most business people say, Chris, I don't want to hear all of that. I just want to think working. Don't come and explain all this mumbo jumbo to me, right? Just make sure that I sleep well at night. That's all they want. So the technical pool, our strategic insights, having virtual CIOs, and what that means is just expert team members who are able to come into the organization and do some CIO type work for a very short period. So you don't have to make the massive investment in hiring a CIO if an organization is not ready for one yet. And of course, us the type of support that we offer is usually up to date, because our suppliers and of our technology, will have one of them presenting on security tomorrow, help us to make sure that we are on the leading edge of what we're doing. Yes, there is, not all MSPs are created equal. Some will sign up with you and they just don't have enough staff to cover the bandwidth. They don't have enough expertise. Yes, it's long contracts. I mean, our contracts are between 3 to 5 years. But it's very, very beneficial, especially when you have a leader with the vision that they want to go digital and go real digital, and they don't have to hire an IT department. I told my marketing team recently, I said, guys, look, we need to, it's not coined as a service, but we need to just call it, T-Tech, IT department as a service. So this is how, we help customers up along that maturity model. Of course, some organizations have internal IT, and we can do a sort of a co-manage arrangement. It's the best of both worlds. We do have that in about maybe 4 or 5 organizations right now. It works well. Internal IT focuses on some aspects, and we on the outside focus on another aspect. What are some of the risks here? Yes, some of the risks here include poor communication. The communication challenge, we really and truly need to do some work on it. Not some, a lot of work on it, because sometimes just finger pointing. And sometimes, yes, we are easy neck to squeeze. We are easy, outside IT providers are an easy set of people to get fingers pointed at. And having been on a value-added reseller selling boxes and repairing versus now in a managed services world where we come in and become a partner, I have felt it on both sides. It's the IT guy's fault. This is why my internal thing is not working, right? Potential disjoint in some inflexible MSPs and all of that. So at the end of the day, the right size support is going to depend on your company. And I just use a very, very simple, relatively simple diagram to say, how do you make the choice what to outsource, what not to outsource? You outsource the things that are not internally strategic, right? Having an expert to manage your switches and routers is not internally strategic. Having someone who understands data analytics and someone who understands where all your data and how to measure and follow that customer journey through the organization, that is strategic. But of course, it also depends on your vision and where do you want to go, right? So at the end of the day, it is very, very important to make that decision to say, my strategic focus around digital is here. This is the type of support I need. Here's what I need internally. Here's what I have to get from outside. So in a nutshell, this is the discussion I've been having with a lot of the folks who have come to me to talk to me about maturity and IT support and what they need. Of course, some may argue, oh, Chris, you're selling. I said, no, you asked me for advice. I'm just kind of advising you. You need to outsource the non-strategic things, right? Switches and routers and Wi-Fi and servers and cloud migration is not strategic to your organization. You need to keep inside the things that provide value. So that's how I answer the questions. And what I'm asking, do you have any questions for me? Kalila?
Yes, there are some questions for you, Chris. So let's take them. Let me start with this one coming from. Actually, the first one was a comment. So here we go. A comment came from Sonika Jerry. A big hindrance to digital transformation is employees' ability to understand, assimilate, and use to create the competitive advantage, the terabytes of data that's collected over a period of time. What story is the data that we have in the ERP telling us? How can we manipulate the data to make bold moves in our industries? That's the skill that's lacking in our organizations today, I think.
So Sonika is asking all the right questions. Sonika was a former team member of us. She now works in a very, very large technology firm. So she, more than anyone, understands this dilemma that we all face, because all of us are going out there trying to inform and educate our customers around what it means to become digital mature. And the, the best thing, Brian gave a number of case studies this morning. Sometimes it's, going back to the old Harvard method of case study teaching. We have to demonstrate, here's what somebody else did. This is what that person, here's how they use their data. This is what was gleaned from it. And then as a result of that, here's a new product that they created as a result of that data. No, that's if the person has the data all in the right place. If the person don't have the data in all the right place, that's another project for data analytics folks out there to come in and say, well, hold on, you have 7 or 8 sources of data. If we put these together, here's what we could show for you. So there has to be some trust with outside consultants to come in and advise around what's possible. Also, going to conferences like this, you see what other people are doing. Going overseas to your industry meetups and all this kind of stuff will definitely help to agitate thought within the organization as around what's possible. And sadly, sometimes bold decisions have to be taken around moving around teams, because as you digitize more, as I've shared with you, this one organization who's really moving a lot of things digital, they're not going to require as many team members doing the traditional jobs anymore. So those folks have to be retrained. Do they want to be retrained? So yes, it's a fair amount of challenges that Sonica raised, and I'm just agreeing with her that there's lots more, and we all have a lot of work to do.
All right, we have some more questions for you, Chris. Apparently, you have stoked the fire with this one. A lot of people are commenting and asking questions. Lisa says, some small and medium businesses are struggling to start their digital transformation journey, as most do not know how. What are the steps to take?
So I would jump back to, well, I'm not going to jump back to the slides right now, they're gone. But one of the slides I put up had four and the questions, I have the ability to jump back now. Let me just go right back to this. I would suggest, Kalila, that this question be answered. And the question that I wanted to get to, and using this technology, is a little bit different. Because usually if I'm doing slides, I just go straight to the slide that I wanted to go to, which I may be able to do. The question I wanted answered is, are you changing anything internally as it relates to your organization's, your customers? So this one, right? What new can you offer? Any business can sit down, a little brainstorming session, 3 of them in the office, 4 of them in the office, and just sit down and say, okay, how can we engage our customers better? How can we use any sort of technology to deliver a better digital experience? Are we able to sell and deliver all our products from somebody's cell phone? Just think. Several years ago, my chairman and I went to have a went to do a presentation on digital transformation at a financial services institution. And we were speaking to the board members, and this exact question came up. And the question made us kind of say, okay, you know what? Let's give you a little scenario. Financial institution, they own a bank. I said, how long does it take a bank account to be opened in your organization? They're board members, so they had to ask some of the support team behind them, and they're varying. Times, whether it's a week, if everything was in order, some 5 days, 10 days, whatever it was. And we just posed something simple. Okay, what could you do to make them open this account in 5 minutes? And of course, there's a lot of discussion. No, well, they need this. And say, no. We're not asking for the solution. But this is transformation. What would you need to do to allow them to open that account in 5 minutes? Last week, we're going to have them talking later and tomorrow. Last week, Khalil, I know you opened your e-wallet with NCB already. I'm sure you download the link application and you open
Of course.
the Jamdex. And I did it, and I had to, coincidentally, I saw two of the team leaders just about a day after I opened my account. I said, guys, this thing is innovative and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All I have to do is sit down there with my cell phone, I answered 2 or 3 questions. I had my driver's license, and you scan the driver's license, then you turn the phone to yourself, it scans you, and then you do some validation again, and then voila, your account is open. I'm like, that's it? Is there any more? Am I going to get an email with a whole barrage of things that I need to do? No. So that is transformation. And so Lisa asking that question again, how could Lisa sell more products directly online without having her being involved in the sale at all? Yes, you want to have that people touch after the person shows their interest, but what things are you doing to improve employee engagement? What things are you doing to improve customer experience? And of course, optimizing operations, what things have been digitized internally? So that's how I would ask the question of any small, medium business, just sit down and think, these 4 areas, what can I do to change them?
Mm-hmm. Demisha Gail Walker wants to know, what do you think is the main reason that IT digitization projects fail?
So the slide that I had up had 5 reasons. Well, one had 4 reasons and the other one had 1 that nobody wants to change. I think the main reason is culture. It's not the want of technology. The main reason is culture. So when Trevor and I wrote the articles, and we looked at our combined experience and asked the questions as to when did stuff work versus when stuff didn't work, when we went in to help people with digitization projects and digital transformation projects. It was around the will of everyone, whether the leadership did a good job or a bad job of creating the vision and sharing the vision. So it comes down to leadership, it comes down to strategy, but ultimately it comes down to culture. Another big reason, and I think they may be equal, is that some people sadly think that digital transformation is all about technology. And technology is just one of the 4 components of it. It's not about technology. So if I were to, I would put the tie. It's not about technology, and the culture of the organization might not be ready for the change.
I see some people have been weighing in the chat as well. Where was the answer? Somebody said, Wesley said, business digital transformation projects often fail because business processes are not clearly defined or optimized. That's another reason. So yeah, that goes hand in hand with everything that you've been saying. And Russell says lack of proper requirements gathering can lead to a lot of digital transformation failing as well. People don't really know what they want. They just want buzzwords.
Right. So that last one you mentioned is very, very important. And he sounds like he may be a developer. So when we go into organizations, Kalila, and we explain that there has to be this soft part at the beginning. Sadly, some people say, well, here's the budget. I'm just expecting to just come in and press this button and things is working. No. There's a whole bunch of soft stuff that must happen before. We have to get those requirements right. We have to understand the capabilities of what's here first. So that statement was correct. Also, so Philip Armstrong made a point saying, look, we need to start by asking what problem you want to solve, and from there you can decide what data is required to answer that question. So very important point, Philip. And he as a former executive understands, and as a driver of technology himself, he understands that challenge very, very, very realistically.
All right, so let's take the poll question. Let me give the poll question. So for those of you who are watching us right now, which area of your company infrastructure would need restructuring or right sizing? 1, networking. 2, storage. 3, hardware. 4, human capital. 5, IT security. 6, server management. 7, IT help service desk. Or 8, data management. Which area of your company infrastructure would need restructuring or right sizing right now? And you can click the polls option to answer that question, to take that poll. Let me see if we have any additional comments. I see some more coming in. Let's see. Richard Dennison wants to know, any experience here with digitizing a medical practice? Can you speak to the difficulties you had to overcome?
That was a question for me.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I was reading another question.
All right, let me repeat the question. It's from Richard Dennison, who asked.
Sent me a WhatsApp question a while ago.
Ah,
Yeah, go
okay.
ahead.
So
Go
Richard
ahead.
Dennison asked, any experience here with digitizing a medical practice, and can you speak to the difficulties you had to overcome?
We have been assisting a couple of medical organizations. One of the big challenges, I will tell you upfront with medical, is the tremendous amount of paper that exists. There's I don't even know what to start to explain to you the I guess gigabytes. We're just looking at the piles of paper and what exactly do they want to do with it. Some people want everything, all that history. Some best practices say, look, we need to just cut that off, start everything new here on digital, and you just pull paper on an as needed basis, and as you need it, then we add it back to the history. There are many schools of thought out there. I don't want to be prescriptive, but a digital transformation project around medical, again, by the way, depending on it's a general practice, is it dentistry, is it what is it? My father-in-law happens to be a medical practitioner, and I did help him with his organization with some of his digital needs. And being a dentist, one of the things that we digitized for him was the X-ray process. Gone are the days when he used to have to do this, you send it away for processing. All that was digitized. So the X-ray happens on the table, back at his desk. It instantly on there. He does the analysis. He comes. That's sped up. So that's kind of just one little example I'm giving. It really and truly depends on is it a hospital? Is it a so it all depends. And as going back to what Philip said earlier, what problem are we trying to solve? No, as Lisa asked earlier, I don't know where to start. So you're not even sure what problem you need to solve, right? But this is where call us, we come in, we have a sit down discussion, we look around and we say, what would impact your customers best? Is it them making appointments to come in? Is it them getting back results from you? What would it? A lot of us complain about going into doctors and why do we have this incessant wait? Why you tell us to come at this time? Could that make things more efficient? Could it ultimately end up with more revenue for the organization? There's just there are so many ways to tackle medical right there.
Well, thank you so much, Chris, for that presentation.